Good morning, Husker fans, and welcome back to the Husker Big Red YouTube channel. I'm Chris Peterson, and joining me as always is Danny Gillette, and we're back here for another episode of the podcast, and we've got a lot to discuss this morning. The Huskers are going to have a pair of five-star recruits on campus, three blue chips in total this weekend for kind of the last recruiting weekend of July for the 2025 class. We got Big Ten Media Days, and the season is approaching, so we're going to cover all that here quickly. Before we do that, if you haven't, please make sure that you guys hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, get into the comment section, check out HuskerBigRed.com, all that good stuff. Danny, how you doing on this Friday morning before this huge recruiting weekend for the Huskers?
I'm tired, but I'm tired from writing all this exciting news. I'd rather be tired from writing than tired from losing or not doing anything. So I'm very excited. Things are trending upwards all around, and I can't believe, let's see, what is today? July 26th. We're getting closer to the 1 month countdown for the opener. So all in all, trending upwards, just like Nebraska recruiting.
Yeah, definitely, just like Nebraska recruiting. So let's get into that here quickly. But if you guys haven't seen it, we've been talking about, David Sanders on the HuskerBigRed.com website. I've posted that numerous times. If Nebraska is going to get David Sanders, they've got to get him in for a visit, yada, yada. There's been, a lot of talk about it. I mean, Steve Wiltfong's done about 1 million videos suggesting that Nebraska may get a visit. So finally, it was reported by Wiltfong and others. I mean, every recruiting site has reported this, that David Sanders is going to visit Nebraska on Friday for an unofficial visit. Dylan Raiola had a tweet trying to get Nebraska fans to come out and meet David Sanders, kind of show their enthusiasm. And I anticipate that call will be met pretty enthusiastically, I think, by Nebraska football fans. And this is a real shot for Nebraska. David Sanders is also going to visit Tennessee, so he's going to visit Nebraska first and Tennessee, but it really does seem like before it felt like an Ohio State-Tennessee battle, and now Steve Wiltfong has said this and others, but it feels more like a Nebraska-Tennessee battle than anything, and I think that that's a pretty good spot for Nebraska to be in going into this weekend.
Yeah, and credit to Dylan Raiola. I remember as far back as February where he posted something on his Instagram story, telling Sanders to hit him up. So Raiola has been active in Sanders' recruitment, just trying to get him to come to Lincoln, and now he puts out the tweet to, for fans to come down and meet David Sanders and greet David Sanders. And I've been really impressed by how active Raiola has been in trying to help recruit. If you're going to be the face of the program, and if you're going to be, want five-star talent around you, this is what you need to do. So I've been very happy to see that Raiola's taken a little bit more of a peer recruiting role, and that's definitely a good sign. And not for nothing, but Danny Kaelin has too. It seems like these upcoming classes have done well with peer recruiting, and that can often seal the deal. And, before this, I thought Nebraska, like you kind of just alluded to, was on the outside looking in, but now I feel pretty good about where Nebraska stands with Sanders. I'm not saying he's going to commit or that they have an easy shot to land him, but I do feel better about Nebraska's chances with Sanders, even more so than I did, say, 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, and you look back at his official visit, which was on Mother's Day. Dylan Raiola wasn't there, for that trip. He'll be there this weekend, obviously, but wasn't there, during May for Mother's Day or whatever. But the family and David Sanders said they were blown away by Nebraska. And this is the number 2 overall recruit in the 2025 class, the number 1 offensive tackle. He's the highest rated recruit to ever visit Nebraska. So when he took his official visit, this will be the second time. So yeah, I mean, 6'6", 290 pounds, like you can't make a more perfect offensive tackle. And I really do believe that Sanders wouldn't be visiting Nebraska if it wasn't for Dylan Raiola. He said that, Raiola flipping from Georgia to Nebraska kind of caught his eye, and they've been slowly working up. I thought that was a good sign when they put him in the top 4. I wasn't sure how realistic it was, but it's definitely real now. And you can see Nebraska, Steve Wiltfong in a video last night said, in terms of their entire recruiting, they're putting the pedal to the metal. And I think that this definitely, the 1890 initiative has, their fingerprints all over this. And it's not just about, these guys, but Cade, Patrizak, they had their hands in that thing too. And there's a reason why Nebraska got that done over Oklahoma. And it did have to do with NIL money. And I think that they're making a push here. And I just think they're being aggressive. It's like, I know that Matt Rule has said that, I don't want to get into, bidding wars, and I don't want to pay high school recruits, but that's what's happening now. And so,
Yeah,
like, if
you
you're
need
David
to.
Sanders,
Yep.
yeah, it's like if you're David, I mean, I get it from the player's perspective, and people are going to say, oh, they're all about money. But if you look at it from that situation, okay, if I'm David Sanders, I got Tennessee offering me $750,000. Nebraska's offering me $250,000. Now, regardless of the monetary thing, right? It's like, well, why does Tennessee value me more than you do? You know what I mean? So there's that component of it as well that I think people tend to forget about because, even though it's not a great way, that those dollar signs equal value. And, in some ways it shows love to those players. Like, we really appreciate you. And there's other ways you can show that. But I think in terms of Nebraska, they just need to be in the same ballpark as other programs. And I think that they're going to do that. And I think that that's why, at least one reason why Sanders and Michael Terry are visiting this weekend. I mean, Michael Terry said his decision would come down to a family type atmosphere and NIL. So if Nebraska wasn't doing NIL, they wouldn't get these 5 stars on campus. So I feel pretty good about that going into this weekend.
And yes, they're high school kids. It is about the money. If you're throwing a bag at me, say $1 million to play for you, I am definitely going to at least try to take a look at your program and maybe even commit. So yes, it is about the money. It's about the money now. Get with the times. And I love how you just have these very eloquent answers, and I'm over here screaming, yes, it is about the money, but that's what makes this great. Anyway, and I used to give the 1890 initiative a lot of flack for their lack of promotion, lack of funds. Even a year ago, I was on here complaining about the 1890 initiative, but now I wonder how much of that was stifled by Trev Alberts. How much of that, was Trev Alberts doing that he wasn't really big into NIL, and maybe the 1890 initiative tried to push things and he didn't approve. And now with Troy Dannon, I mean, I remember him wearing an 1890 initiative, hat on, in his first press conference. So I'm wondering, looking back on it now, I still am not a huge fan of Matt Davison, the businessman, but I'm wondering how, if Trev Alberts was a major part of the reason why the 1890 initiative wasn't, effective early on, because now they seem to be ponying up, as you mentioned.
Well, I definitely think, when there's not coordination and support, it definitely felt like that Trev Alberts, didn't really, I felt like that he was worried that money that usually goes to the athletic department for his little pet project was going to start going to the 1890 initiative. And I think that's what his problem with it was, because Trev Alberts doesn't care about Nebraska's success. Trev Alberts cares about Trev Alberts' resume. And he wanted, all these building projects on there for his resume so he could go get a better job. So, as harsh as it is to say, that's what his behavior has shown. That's who Trev Alberts is. He does not care if Nebraska wins or loses, except, how it looks on his resume. So he wants Nebraska to win, but he also wanted to get his little pet projects done. Troy Dannon has been a godsend, and thank you, Texas A&M, for taking Trev Alberts away, because he was a hindrance to this athletic department, not a help. And that's the way that I feel about it. I mean, he hired good coaches.
Yeah.
He hired quality coaches, but outside of that, everything was about his own personal agenda. And what can Trev Alberts get out of Nebraska to help Trev Alberts get ahead?
And to be honest, if wins were something that made him look good, early on for Nebraska in his tenure, they weren't there either. So yeah. I don't know, what he wants to do. I don't want to belabor Trev Alberts too much because we're moving forward, but it's just been a stark contrast. Like even back in April when Bussin' with the Boys did a show on campus, and they did it in the auditorium, and they had fans, and the potential. I'm not sure if you've heard any more about this yet. I haven't, but of paying. Actually, I think it's coming up soon. The paying for the practice.
Yep.
The open practice.
Yeah, that's I think the August 3rd. I want to say it's like the second week.
So I mean, even just small initiatives like that, to try to get the fans involved while paying to raise for the NIL funds while not charging exorbitant prices. There's definitely a coordination plan here now between Dannon and the 1890 initiative that wasn't there with Alberts for whatever reason.
Yeah, you could see it, the coaches are wearing the 1890 stuff, and you've got the fan support at Nebraska, so why not tap into it? And that's just the new, it's fine to say, like, I want this to be, a transformational experience and not transactional, as Michigan has said. Matt Rule's kind of said similar things, and that's fine. But you still have to make transactions to make these things happen. And
I think you can do both. I think you
exactly.
Can do both.
I 100%. You can make it. You can make the whole NIL thing a transformational thing and part of the whole process and bringing it into your culture. Like, Dylan Raiola, yes, NIL was part of it, but that's not the only reason he came here. And if David Sanders comes here, it's not just going to be because of NIL. It's because, he loves the family atmosphere. He believes in this coaching staff. He believes in Raiola. He, buys into the whole kind of fan experience. And, his family and his mom, and they said that no other place was like Nebraska when they visited. So, okay, like, let's make sure that our NIL money is on par with everybody else, and let's get him here. Like, let's just get these talented people here, and let's get this program turned the F around. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, 100%. I'm tired of losing. I'm tired of drinking after losses. My liver's almost shot after the 2021 season. My liver was crying for help. But anyway, even you mentioned helping pay for recruits essentially, but also keeping people here. Ty Robinson and Nash Hutmacher. I mean, part of the reason they stayed was for NIL, and Isaac Gifford. They were able to give him a little bit of cash as well. So it's not about just recruiting and getting talent via NIL, but it's also about keeping players and keeping key pieces of your roster. And looking back on it now, keeping Nash and Ty, even if it was due to NIL, was huge. So we already kind of saw the NIL wheels in motion, so to speak, at the end of last season.
And my guy Isaac Gifford, who had the flowing hair at Big Ten Media Days this week. So it
was good to see the flowing hair.
Looking great, and man, I can't wait to see that hair flying around as he's just absolutely crushing people on the field. So, but he's another guy. They could all be in the NFL, and I do think
Scott.
that Ben Scott.
Honestly, all the Big Ten Media Day representatives, which we'll probably get into right now, could be in the NFL.
Yeah, and that's a huge thing, and I do think NIL played a factor in that because. Yeah. They all could be, even if you're on the practice squad, you're still making six-figure money in the NFL. So, you got to give those guys a reason to come back, and they wanted to come back. And I'm glad that, the 1890 initiative is kind of doing what it's supposed to do now that Trev Alberts is out of the way. Before we get to Big Ten Media Days, though, I do want to talk about one other recruiting thing this weekend because it's kind of got overshadowed a little bit. And I feel like, if Michael Terry and David Sanders weren't coming, that this would be a bigger topic. And I guess we maybe glossed over Michael Terry a little bit. So before we get to this next one, so Terry is visiting this weekend, actually Monday and Tuesday. So there's basically a week that's kind of the last week of July. It's an open period for unofficial visits for recruiting. Oregon and Texas are the other two teams in the mix. Texas has been kind of projected as the favorite, but again, I mean, Michael Terry, after his visit, said, Matt Rule isn't playing fair. That was his quote in a video that was released. Kind of the same thing with David Sanders, basically a very similar vibe. And so I'm interested to see with this NIL and getting him back, getting him around Dylan Raiola more, if they can close the deal there too.
I just love the concept of all these analysts and even us making predictions about where this kid will go. And in the meantime, Michael Terry, for example, has the decision made up or is trying to make the decision and is watching all of us scramble and write articles and things like that. But I'm excited about, our chances with Michael Terry. Do I think we're going to land him? I think it's going to be tough, but he is a really good athlete, really good wide receiver wherever they want to put him. So it's not going to be easy. I do think this is an encouraging sign. And Isaiah Mosey, he was one of my favorite guys last year. I remember watching film on him last year. I believe Nebraska got him on campus during that, first March official visit weekend last year, one of the first big recruiting times for Matt Rule and the coaching staff. So I would love to have him here. I mean, I think hiring his father was a great move. And now you can have, what is it, unlimited analysts now? Is it unlimited or?
I think so. I'd have to double check that. I think there's like a limit of like 20 or something. I do think that there is some limit of how many can coach, but I might not be right on that. I'll have to double check. But like, I know Ron Brown is going to be coaching. I saw on
was that confirmed?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but
I saw that too, but I wasn't sure if it was confirmed. That's why I didn't mention it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's been confirmed either, but I think that makes sense. I know that Matt Rule said he wants to basically have two coaches at every position. That's what he said at Big Ten Media Days, just to try to help with the development. I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So we'll see how that works out. But yeah, Jamar Mosey, I think is going to be a great hire. And Isaiah Mosey is ranked 241 in the 24/7 composite rankings. So, I mean, another blue chip prospect is committed to Oregon, but they've got like 3 wide receivers committed as well right now. So I think that's another factor into this thing. And obviously you have to, have some NIL game to be out the Ducks. But, you look at the visits, man, the visits usually tell the story of a recruitment. And he took an official visit like the 21st of June, I believe, to Nebraska. So the fact that he's coming back this weekend, his dad is now on staff. I'd be surprised if Nebraska didn't end up flipping Isaiah Mosey.
I would be too. And even if they don't, Jamar Mosey gives us a tie to Missouri. And there's a lot of talent coming up in the state of Missouri. So that's a
Jackson
plus as well.
Cantwell.
Oh, yeah. The Jackson Cantwell. We forgot about Jackson Cantwell or haven't talked about him yet. But, I mean, you just look at, like, the type of linemen that are coming in to visit. And it's like, this is not – I've never seen this level of, talent come into the program before. And I'm sure maybe you have back in the 90s when I was, like 3 months old, but I personally haven't.
But see, I wasn't following the recruiting then, I just watched I didn't even know what recruiting was back then. I just watched the team on Saturday, you know what I mean? So
this is a little bit of an aside, and I just kind of want to know this. Did they have like the rankings like they do now, like the 24/7 Sports Rivals like back in the day, or was it more just an eye test type of thing?
Well, so I know with the 24/7 sports rankings, because I actually did a story about this for the state of Montana. I looked back at all their top, recruits in there. So the 24/7 rankings go back to like 1999, and like Scout and Rivals did those a little bit earlier. Tom Lemming actually did rankings. Like he was the first guy. I think him and maybe Mike Farrell did some rankings too. But there's a reason those guys kind of like argue for who's the godfather of college football recruiting.
Yep.
But I've seen Tom Lemming rankings that go back to like 1988 or in the mid 80s. But I think he did it in his he had back then. I think it was all magazines. I do think he created a website in the 90s when it kind of became popular. But so there were rankings, but definitely not the way it was now. I think 24/7 and Scout, which was 24/7 before that. I think that really kind of changed the game with recruiting, and it's crazy with. I do think people put too much stock in the rankings. They do matter, but at the end of the day, but yeah, it's a totally different world. Like I think that Tommy Frazier, like I'm sure he was ranked by Lemming or people knew he was like a highly rated recruit, but it's just different than where now he probably would have been like a composite 5-star or whatever. Who knows? But yeah, totally different age of recruiting now as it was back then. But yeah, like I said, when I got my start as a Nebraska fan, I had no idea what any of that was. I just watched the team on Saturdays, and I just know that our offensive and defensive lines just absolutely killed people, and that's why we won most of the games. So I think that building from the inside out is the way to do it.
And having David Sanders on campus, but also reaching out to Jackson Cantwell, like I'm not going to say there's not a dip, but there's not like we're offering Jackson Cantwell because we're desperate and we don't think we have a shot, and this is never going to go anywhere. I mean, we could legitimately land Jackson Cantwell, and that just speaks to the level of talent that has kind of increased on the offensive line over the last couple seasons. And it speaks to the offensive line focus that Matt Rule talked about when he first was hired by Nebraska.
Yeah, and imagine if you get David Sanders, I don't know. I just feel like that could even help. I mean, maybe not with Jackson Cantwell because they probably both want to play left tackle. You'd probably have to convince one of them to play right tackle. But I mean, there's guys that play right tackle all the time that get drafted as. I mean, look at Joe Alt. He played right tackle at Notre Dame, and whether he plays right or left tackle in the NFL is still kind of an open question. So I don't think that playing right tackle as opposed to left tackle necessarily hurts your draft status. But I mean, if you get a 5-star, in back-to-back classes, even if they get one of these two, Sanders or Terry, I mean, I feel like that would make it easier to sell Jackson Cantwell. And like we were talking about on Monday, Nebraska already has kind of a leg up with him because, they are willing to let guys do track and field and whatever. And so he wants to probably be an Olympic shot putter like his dad. Both of his parents were Olympians. And so Nebraska's going to give him that opportunity. I don't know if these other programs will, and I think that's going to give the Huskers a leg up for sure. I'm sure
that's also very good. Sorry.
Well, I'm just going to say, I'm sure they'll come around to it like Georgia or whatever, like, oh yeah, we'll let you throw the shot. But Nebraska already has a plan in place. They have guys that already do it. They know how to integrate you into their program so you can have success, in track and field and in football. And I don't know that the other schools are going to be prepared to kind of make that same presentation to Jackson Cantwell.
And it's also a very solid track and field program as well. So it's not like
Yeah.
you're selling them a crappy track and field program. It's a solid program there as well. But it also makes it an easier sell when talking about the line for quarterbacks like TJ Lateef. I mean, I know, he's still committed to Nebraska, and there are questions swirling, with some of the comments he made. But aside from just Lateef, it's an easier sell for the quarterbacks. We can give you a good line. We have the weapons at wide receiver. We're getting more running back talent into the program. It's all there for you to succeed if you want to come to Nebraska and if you want to play right now. So that's encouraging part of it as well.
Yeah, and before we go into the Big Ten reactions about TJ Lateef, just looking at like the Brian Tapu thing and thinking back to Lateef when he gave that interview with Tom Malloy, and then like the next day he did an interview with Brian Munson of Husker Online that says he was 100% committed. I'm pretty sure that somebody from the coaching staff reached out to him and was like, "Hey man, that's either 100% with us or you're not."
Word got back rather quickly, I would assume.
It's just funny. The next day he's, I'm 100% committed, which I think he always was, but it's funny now that with the Brian Tapu and being like, maybe the coaches got it in his ear. Like, I think somebody was like, "Hey TJ, let's do another interview and sharpen it up a bit."
Hey TJ, Joe Smith is also waiting for an offer from us, and he would love to come into the program.
That's funny. But Nebraska was on the podium Wednesday, a couple days ago. Matt Rule, we talked about it. Isaac Gifford, Ty Robinson, and not a ton of not even like bulletin board, but just things to take away. It's been kind of a boring Big Ten media days in general, I think. But what were some of your reactions or takeaways from nuggets that emerged at Big Ten media days?
That Matt Rule thinks the Big Ten is an elite conference in college football, and to an extent, I do agree. But until proven otherwise, and granted, Michigan did win last year, but I still got to give it to the SEC. I mean, I think they set the standard for college football. But it was interesting to hear him talk about how the Big Ten is so expansive and how, it goes from coast to coast and things like that, because it's all true now. I mean, now we have UCLA, USC, Oregon, Washington. You have, obviously Nebraska and all the Midwest schools. You have Maryland, you have Rutgers. So it really is an expansive conference. And the fact that he thinks that 4 Big Ten teams could make the college football playoff was quite interesting as well, because I can kind of see it now with the new schools coming in as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the Big Ten is going to have a few guaranteed spots if that proposal that was floating out there gets approved. And I guess I'm not sure. Maybe it did already. That stuff. It's kind of gets so confusing. But yeah, I thought that was interesting, and it makes sense for Rule to talk up the conference, because if there's 4 teams getting in from the Big Ten, that all Nebraska has to do is finish 4th. So I mean, I do think that makes sense. The Carter Nelson thing surprised me a little bit. I wasn't, expecting that. But, at the end of the day, if you're a move tight end, you're essentially a receiver anyway. So, I think they'll move him around, and we'll see. Maybe he'll stick at receiver. They've talked about, playing him at running back, the Walter Payton thing. When he posted that video, it's because, Rule said like, "Hey man, I'll give you the ball and let you hop over the line like Walter Payton." It just reminded me, I just thought of, positionless offense, and I don't care. Just get Carter Nelson the football if that makes it easier for him to get on the field. But man, you look at Malachi Coleman, Jalen Lloyd, Ja'Cory Barney, Carter Nelson, Jamal Banks, Isaiah Nayer, and that doesn't even talk about Isaiah McMorris and Davon Hall and some of these Demetrius Bell. So Nebraska's loaded at wide receiver, and if you've been playing NCAA college football with them, it's been pretty fun. I've been throwing a crap ton to Isaiah Nayor and Jalen Lloyd, but at any rate, it's going to be fun to see. I throw a couple of those every game, but whatever.
But no, it's interesting. And Carter Nelson is just an overall good athlete. I'll never forget the play where he caught a defender that made an interception. I believe he was playing on the offense side of the ball. Obviously, he ripped the interception out of the defender's hands and then returned it 99 yards. It was like, wow, okay, we got something special here. But no, it's just crazy to think about.
That's funny. Yeah, he's like, yoink. No, thank you.
Yeah.
How bad was that? That kid's like, I'm going to score a touchdown. Nope. Then you're going to give up a touchdown. Not only are you not going to get a touchdown, but you're going to give up a touchdown. But anyway,
I am curious to see where all these guys fit. I mean, we do have a lot of wide receivers, and I am curious to see where he fits, but we also have a lot of tight ends. So at this point, I just want the best guys to get on the field, and if that means Nelson plays a wide receiver, then so be it. I don't really see an issue. I know some people did, but he has the size, he has the speed, he has the athleticism, and he could be a very solid additional red zone target probably on the outside, I'm guessing. So I am very interested to see how this plays out and how quickly he can, develop into a solid wide receiver.
And see, I could see him being used outside and in the slot some because, just somebody who's that big and fast, when you put that tight end, it creates a matchup problem because either, okay, are you going to put a cornerback on him? So then that's leaving you, vulnerable somewhere else, or you're walking out a linebacker or safety. And frankly, I think Carter Nelson's going to win that matchup most of the time just based off of his speed. So I don't know how much he's going to play right away. And maybe, I don't know if that, makes me feel less confident about him making an impact right away. But I never thought he was going to be like, an in the box. I didn't think they were going to be sitting there like putting Carter Nelson in the H-back, like second tight end,
No.
Power run game type stuff.
No,
Not yet.
no.
I think he'll get there. But, there's a reason that they are so high on Nate Borkature and Thomas Fadone as well. So, I still feel great about the tight end position. And I think it'll take Carter. I've always thought it was going to take Carter, 4 to 6 games. But I think in that second stretch, those tougher games, we're going to start seeing his name popping up a little bit more. And I think you'll see the offense start to game plan more ways to get him involved.
I feel like Nate Borkature is a very underrated tight end. He may not be the best receiver, but he can block really well. And I think that's one of the main things that he brings to the table for this offense. And he did do well last year. So I have no problem putting him out there. And it's just nice to have options now. I mean, you look at this offense and there's options everywhere. And last year there were some options, but maybe not as full as this year. And this will be a good, year to kind of judge Marcus Satterfield. I didn't really think last year was, and I know people were ready to fire him after last year, but I think this year will be a much better test as to Satterfield's capabilities.
And I think Glenn Thomas, will help support him. And yeah, I agree with the weapons. And Matt Rule didn't name a starting quarterback yesterday, but I think that'll be coming within a couple of weeks. We all know it's going to be Dylan Raiola. I think there's some, drama about maybe he'll be the backup, maybe it'll be Harburg, maybe it'll be Jalen Gramstead. I still think Harburg's going to have some type of wildcat role, but this offense is going to be exciting, and as long as they can take care of the football, this team's going to win 8 games. I pretty much guarantee that. So
yeah, I'd say 8. I think at the very least a bowl game, and if they don't make a bowl game this year, then I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know what's going to happen to this podcast. I don't know what's going to happen to the website. I don't know.
I mean, it'll just be, we'll still be here, but it'll be just a slow walk to, I don't know, to just, I can't think about that. I can't wrap my head around it. I can't handle any more torture. So it's not going to happen. We're going to play in a bowl game. We're going to win 8 games. And in the next 3 years, we will be in the college football playoff. That's my prediction. And that's my final thoughts that's my final thoughts for today. So
I like the way our schedule lines up this year. I like the way I think the back end is going to be a little bit tough, but I like having UCLA in there because Deshaun Foster did not exactly make a good impression at Big Ten Media Day. So
yes, got some Scott Frost vibes there, but
yeah, so I don't know, but we'll see.
Well, it doesn't mean he can't coach, but yeah, I definitely got some Scott Frost vibes there. But
I liked Foster as a player, but as we all know, sometimes players don't make the best coaches.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. The players do seem pretty excited about him at UCLA, though. So
and that's
we'll see what happens.
That's healthy.
So, all right, guys. We'll be back on Monday. We'll have hopefully some intel on how all these visits went over the weekend with David Sanders. Probably not Michael Terry since he's coming in on Monday, but hopefully we'll have some positive news to talk about on Monday. So, thanks for joining us. Please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, get into the comment section, check out HuskerBigRed.com, and as always, go Big Red.
Go Big Red.